What's going on? I'm Franklin Cooper.
Tristan Jones.
Marcy Gonzalez.
And you are watching Watchers in the Basement. What's going on, everybody? Today we are covering episode 5 of the now hit series 1923, a Yellowstone prequel. And episode 5 is called Ghost of Zebrina. I hope I'm saying that right. We had to wait a damn month for this to come back on air, and I must say the wait was worth it. Oh boy, Spencer's coming. Spencer's a coming, boy. Tristan, what are your thoughts, man, on episode 5?
Yep. Hopefully Spencer's gonna Spencer has some obstacles to deal with. I like this episode. I didn't think it gave too much. I think this the way that the narrative of this season is going is it's shifting more towards, okay, we're waiting for Spencer, and like the larger points of this season are going to come after he gets there. It's just like, damn, got to get there. I did like this episode. Like I said, it was very interesting in different ways. Seeing like just the different dynamics between the couples. Like I thought that was one of the biggest themes of, like, hey, don't leave me behind, right? Like we see it with Spencer and Alex. Literally, like he's trying to leave her behind because he knows that the journey is so difficult. We see it with Jack and his fiance Elizabeth. Like he's kind of spiritually leaving her behind because there's just so much death and so much loss and stuff like that. And we see Kara and Jacob. They just refuse to let each other go. Like they're the goal. So I like seeing like the different stages that these relationships are in. I think that was like the biggest thing from this episode, but I liked it. Wasn't great, it wasn't great, but like it was a good enough like kind of bridge episode between 4, which was I think like one of the best of the season so far, and where we think the show is going the rest of the season.
Marcy, what were your thoughts?
I liked it as well. This was the longest episode so far, at like an hour and 10 minutes, but it didn't seem like it was that long, and it didn't seem like it was dragging. So I wasn't like, damn, like I'm ready for this to be over. I loved seeing Spencer and Alex start off on their journey and just kind of go through it, even though you could kind of see that something ominous was going to happen because they left little clues. So loved kind of like the build up to that action and just kind of the cliffhanger that they left us on. So I'm like ready for next week's episode to see like, okay, what actually happens. But I love that you touched upon, Tristan, of like the relationships and like the don't leave me behind. And we see what happens when somebody does get left behind, right? We see Emma is so sad and distraught that she feels like there's nobody left for her, right? She has she has a kid, but he has his own wife or fiance, so she didn't know where she could fit in. So that's, where she decided that she didn't want to live anymore. So that was really, really tragic, and just kind of shows you the hardships that people went through back then. Like, not only could you lose your spouse so easily to like very preventable diseases back then, but also like the violence that there was when there was like such lawlessness.
I totally agree. This episode for me, outside waiting for a month for it, I think it really showcased, and I think Elsa even previewed this, narrated this in the beginning of the episode, like the Duns on the brink of extinction. Like there's not many left. And when I watched the episode, I felt so much anxiety of like every scene. I'm like, okay, please, Kara, make it out of this scene alive. Please, Jack, don't beat Jack and go looking for trouble. There's not many of you left. It's very dire. That's the vibe I got throughout this episode. Even with Spencer being half continents away, like with him being such a war hero and a fighter, my main focus telling myself was just get back to Montana. Don't do anything crazy. Don't lose your temper. Don't put yourself and the family in jeopardy. So the anxiety I felt, even though it was a very methodical episode, very kind of like slower pace, it it added more anxiety for me because first off, we don't know when he's coming, in regards to Spencer, and I think the show does a good job of like kind of keeping on your toes, even with slower episodes, but keeping on your toes of like when he'll finally get back to Montana, because Kara hasn't seen him since probably before the events of World War I. So we're talking about maybe 6-7 years now, and I feel it throughout the episodes. So the scene opens up, the show opens up with Kara going back to the post office, hoping that she got a cable, which is a letter or a message from Spencer letting know he's coming. And from the way it's being set up, it looks like she's been going there for months now. Because I think Spencer didn't open up the letter until 2-3 months after she sent it. Marcy, I want you to talk about like the level of anxiety she must feel going there every morning and just coming up empty again, not knowing if Spencer's even alive or not, let alone if he's going to return the letter. Marcy, you're muted. Yeah, no worries.
Right. Yeah, when you were talking about it just now, I'm thinking like it's kind of like when you're ghosted and you're like, damn, are they gonna like write? Oh, did they text me? No, that wasn't me. So it must have been a lot more like stressful back then, where like all you could get was a letter, maybe, or like a telegram. But not only like is she waiting to hear from him because she hasn't seen him, there's actual like shit that's gone down that he needs to come back for. She doesn't know what's going to happen. So I could definitely see the stress that she was in, and she would go like every day, and like even you could see the woman at the counter at the post office like felt bad for her. She's like, I don't have anything for you today. So not only was it evident to us as viewers, but it was evident to everybody around back then that she was really struggling and definitely needed to hear from Spencer and know that help was coming.
T?
Yeah, same. Like I love what she said about like I like to at least get this disappointment out the way early. Like that again is just more foreshadowing of like I guess the clearing up of the gap in communication between Spencer and the rest of his family. Finally receiving these letters, we know that he finally gets to send a message back. And that hope is needed because I mean, like the first half of this episode is like just really building up like how much the Duttons have lost, right? And it's just loss after loss, having to sell cattle off. More and more their threats to their land and to their home are like linking up, right, and becoming almost super threats. Like you start to see the machinations that that Banner and his benefactor are planning in order to take the Dutton land. And it just, for us as viewers, it just looks bleak, and that bleakness is kind of played out through Kara, and it's this every day or I don't know how often she's traveling to do this, but like this frequent disappointment that she gets because she hasn't received a cable from Spencer, and like he's literally the savior. You're like, and just imagine, for me, just as a viewer, it just kind of took me back to the time period of, I think we take for granted how easy communication and travel are. And, when Spencer and Alex are trying to get on, trying to book passes to the United States, and it's like, basically you got to wait a month just to get on. And then that's another, 3 weeks or so. And the urgency, like, and I guess that's the bigger point here, is that this urgency on both sides, right? Kara and the rest of the family needs to hear from Spencer, needs to know and get confirmation that he is on the way to basically lead this family. And Spencer, having finally received that letter, is driven by purpose and revenge at the same time. Like he understands his purpose, he understands his value to that family, and how important he is to the future of that family. You could tell like it's something that he and Kara, or at least like they've had conversations about legacy and his importance to that family, because she mentioned it in the letter to him, like, hey, this is your legacy. If you don't come back, your legacy is done for. So you're seeing that urgency there. And yeah, like I imagine, like if you're seeing this woman come in maybe once a week, once every couple weeks, to look for a cable, like you start to feel the same anxiety that she's feeling. Like you're rooting for her and such. And we're as viewers, we're rooting for her to communicate with Spencer just as much as we're rooting for Spencer to make it back. Like we just want like that I guess that anxiety of just not knowing to just to be cleared up.
Yeah, it's very well put. In regarding Spencer too, Elsa said something that caught my attention at the beginning of the episode. She ominously suggests that this will be Spencer's final journey, implying that he'll never make it to Montana or leave Montana. I thought that was very interesting because it was said in such a position of like unclear, like not clear. Marcy, what were your thoughts on Elsa saying that in the beginning of the narration of the show?
That stood out to me too as kind of like a little bit ominous. So with her saying that, to me, it sounded like he does make it to Montana eventually, but either like he doesn't last too long there and like Spencer's gonna die soon, or he doesn't have, he's not gonna live forever. He's not gonna live for decades to see his children grown. Or he's going to get to Montana and he's going to like put a squash to everything and be able to at least live peacefully so he doesn't have to leave Montana. So it could go both ways. But yeah, I loved that whole narration that she was talking about how her family like started off in Europe and they fled that, and then they were fleeing Tennessee because of war. So it just kind of shows you like how people have had to migrate throughout history, and that like I'm such a history buff and like a buff of genealogy and all that stuff kind of fascinates me. So I really liked how she was talking about that because it really paints a picture and puts that into perspective. And I love watching the show called Finding Your Roots. And, what the host says was like, yeah, a lot of people migrate because of adversity, right? Like you don't have like rich people like don't tend to emigrate places. They're rich and like they're comfortable where they are. So they don't have to like move. But the movement just shows you like how people have like traveled from adversity to like the next place.
I kind of agree with you too, Marcy. I took it as him finally finding peace and being stationary. I didn't take it as a dark, ominous message as if he doesn't make it to Montana or he dies in the middle of the war between the Duttons and Banner and those guys. I took it as, because when you look at Spencer's story arc, his life has been nothing but doom, tragedy, death, and just moving on to the next. From his childhood, seeing his parents die, damn near freezing to death, to going to World War I, and fighting this war, to now being this famous hunter in Africa. There was always a movement in his life, and I think once he gets to Montana and deals with he's dealing with the family drama, I think he has kids. I think he does find peace to where he's so rooted in Montana he never leaves. That's what I got from it. Tristan, what about you?
I didn't think of at all of like that it was ominous. I mean, it absolutely could be the case that he gets there and settles family business and goes out like Omar on the Wire, just like just a random bullet. Like, but I think the way Elsa was painting it, and we could just be looking at this like through rose-colored glasses. But I think Spencer settles down. I think introducing Alex as a kind of foil to his sullenness. Hopefully, I mean, again, maybe we're just thinking hopefully in a world where I guess we have really no business thinking hopefully, but I just hope that they live a long life. They have kids, and again, there's going to be more threats. Like we know there's going to happen, and maybe those take him out. But I think Spencer lives a semi-long life. For whatever long life is for mid 20th century, early to mid 20th century.
Moving on to another Dutton that we rarely see here or really razzle dazzles on camera, and that's Emma Dutton. Jack's I want to say Jack's mother.
It's Jack's mother.
Yeah, she says some fucked up shit to Kara. So of course she lost her husband. She feels this separation between her and her son Jack, and Kara's trying to smooth things over and like give her advice like, hey, it's gonna get better. Your son needs you. And she goes into this whole diatribe of like, my son doesn't need me. Don't tell me how to be a mother. You was never a mother. That shit hit me, man, because I can make the argument that Kara's been more of a mother to all the Duttons than Emma ever has. I mean, from dealing with the day-to-day operations of the ranch, raising these three boys, if you include Jack. She's been the matriarch of that ranch, and I get it. I mean, Emma's lost a lot, but Tristan, what were your thoughts on that, man? When she said what she said, and even in the aftermath of what happened at that cabin that night.
Man, grief is its own language. You know what I'm saying? Like, grief is a language. I think people I think Kara, Kara knew that. I don't think she took much offense. I think it's I won't say it's something that she anticipated hearing from Emma, but like, I don't think she was surprised either, right? Because that type of grief, you lost a husband, it's so much loss just happening around the same time, and she just really feels like she has no purpose, and kind of cross shows, but go back to what Bill said in episode 3 in Last of Us, right? Like, you were my purpose. The last scene we really see with Emma, with John, they're sharing like this really romantic day out, like, and everything just kind of goes to shit just like that. So yeah, what she said was hurtful, but it's to be expected when you're feeling that level of grief and you have no other outlets to deal with said grief, right? Like, there's no therapist like in 1923. There's none of these things. There's no friends. They're literally in the middle of the fucking mountains. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no peer or something that can share a relatable experience and they can cope together. Like, all she has around her is like constant reminders of the grief. So yeah, like, I felt Emma in that moment. Like, I feel what she's going through, and we're supposed to feel what she's going through. Um, Damn, but like, they just went from that to straight gunshot. Like, 2 seconds later, like that, that was a tough deal. But again, like, the main thing that we have to always remember is that when people are speaking through grief, it's like, it's not necessarily a coherent, state of mind that she's in. And obviously, we see how that ends with her. But historically, around this time period, there are a lot of suicides, especially amongst, women, because there's no outlets for the grief that they're feeling in this increasingly violent world, right? So yeah, grief, it is its own like rhetoric. And she's speaking through grief to Kara, and Kara, just as somebody who's, we can tell, has lived through a lot, she understands where that grief is coming from, and she also understands that like further engaging with the grief is only going to make it spread more. But Emma we could see from the last episode, Emma was gone, when John died. Her entire persona, maybe not her entire, but a lot of her persona and self-worth was tied up into that marriage, and where she fit into the family as a whole. And I don't think she feels like she has any purpose in his family after he's gone.
The suicide surprised me only from the standpoint that months had passed at this point. I know initially when tragedy strikes like that, especially family tragedy, that's done a lot sooner. It's probably about 3 or 4 months now since the attack on the Duttons. Marcy, what was your thoughts on Emma, her exchange with Kara, and the suicide?
I wasn't quite expecting that, to be honest. I expected her maybe to wallow a little bit more, and I was hoping that she would be able to make it through her grief. But again, like Tristan said, there is no way to like get therapy out there. Everybody's kind of dealing with the grief in their own way. So it's not like Jack could be there for her and help her through her grief. He was processing it a completely different way, where he wasn't being there for his mom. He wasn't being there for his fiance or anybody else. He was just out trying to get vengeance. So Kara couldn't really be there for her in the grief because she had to like keep running the ranch and be there for Jacob. So again, I don't think she really had anybody to turn to really help her through her grief. And she really couldn't see herself going on because she didn't know what to live for. I thought it was interesting that they used like a gun for her to commit suicide, because that tends to be like a very like male like way of committing suicide. And maybe like back then it was different, but in today's statistics, like women mostly do it like other means. They typically don't use firearms. So yeah, it was a little bit jarring, but I understand how she could get to that place where it just felt like, where she felt hopeless and she felt like there was just too much despair to keep going. But I really wished that we would have seen a little bit more of her.
Also, think of it like this: John dying was not the only traumatic experience. Like, she was also on the verge of dying. Kara was on the verge of dying. Elizabeth was on the verge of dying. Everybody was on the verge of dying. So it's that traumatic. It's PTSD, and PTSD builds up over time. Like a lot of victims of a lot of people who witnessed Hiroshima, and it took them like some of them committed suicide years after experiencing like that trauma. So like, yeah, like I think sometimes we see, I think in a lot of TV shows, we see trauma and then dealing with trauma, suicides, whatever, like the lashing out or whatever, like different ways that people deal with it. In real life, people internalize grief and they internalize trauma, and it shows up in different ways later on, because it mixes in with the other ways that they feel about themselves. Maybe Emma never felt like she was a super valuable member of this family. Maybe she never felt like she had a place, right? Hell, the show doesn't even feel like that. She has like 5 lines up until before she died. So maybe the show was already setting us up for her eventual death, because she's just not that big a factor in the show's narrative. The biggest way that Emma plays a part is like, we're trying to figure out the lineage of the Duttons, and and that's really the most prominence that she has in the story. RIP to her. Like, I mean, I wish she would have made it. Sorry she had to go through that, but like, I wasn't surprised when she killed herself. Like, I wasn't surprised at all.
I think for me, these are inexplicable mistakes that the show keeps making. Like, for one, there's not many Duttons on the show. There's very few Duttons, even to begin with. And I think the producers and the writers are doing us a disservice by not showcasing these personalities. If she's not highly thought of in the hierarchy of what's going on the ranch and just in the Dutton hierarchy, I want that explained. At least show us that she's not thought of as a major factor in this family. I love acting. I love actors acting, and if that can be displayed in a form of acting or verbal reaction or just like facial reaction, that does so much for me. And I think glossing over two Duttons in the story, John included, I think you're doing the story a disservice. But no, I thought that was very tough. The suicide, 'cause I did not see that happening. I thought, like Marcy said, I thought she'll wallow a little bit more and like get it together because Jack needs her. Because now Jack's lost 2 parents. Now I'm even more worried about Jack now, because like we haven't really seen that. I know Jack's more angry and wants vengeance, but I wonder if they're gonna showcase his anger of like, now I lost my mom. You know what I'm saying? So that's rough. Let's talk about Tiana real quick. So last time we saw Tiana, she was mercilessly getting beaten again. She had gotten raped by another nun, and she's fucking fed up. She tells her friend that she wants to get out of here, and her friend doesn't want to go. I think her name is Bapuxti. I might be saying that wrong. totally butchering that probably, but she refuses, and Tiana's fed up. She beats Sister Mary to death in her bed, to a bloody pulp, and we find out in this episode that she also killed the nun that raped her early on in the season. So, what are your thoughts on Tiana? Where does she go from here? Marcy, what are your thoughts on that?
That whole storyline is so impactful and it's so hard to watch. But when she killed the nun, I was like, yeah, I can totally understand that, because what she had to go through at the hands of people who are supposed to be doing the Lord's work, right, was despicable. So I'm glad that she got away. Now I really want to see where she ends up, because we know she is one of Rainwater's ancestors. So I definitely want to see more of her story. I want to see less violence inflicted upon her. I really want to see her just kind of reunite with her tribe and hopefully be able to go back to the school and get the rest of the girls and women out, or just be able to take some more vengeance, because yeah, it's super, super fucked up what she had to go through. And then we don't know, we're assuming that the cousin also gets killed because she doesn't want to tell the priest where she's gone. But I'm just kind of tired of this priest. Like, if she could have killed him too, like, I would have been okay with it. Like, I would not have been mad. Yeah, it's just super fucked up. And part of me was thinking, like, is it necessary for us to see like all of this violence and brutality? But it is, because these types of things happened, and not only is it very like little known because it's not anything that we learn about in school, but also now we have politicians that are trying to erase all of that history. So it's super, super important to learn about it, even if it's through like forms of entertainment. If that sparks somebody to be like, oh, like, let me actually like read upon these residential schools and like all the fucked up shit we did to the natives, like, all for it.
Yeah, I knew nothing about residential schools. I was obviously, we know about reservations, but I didn't know that like this was a, subsidized by the government, like Catholic church. Like, I didn't know the link between those things until this. So I think the story is necessary. Is all of the violence necessary? Maybe. I mean, I think we do need to understand. I'm a big proponent of, if it happened, then we need to show it. Like, how much we need to show it is always going to be debatable, but those scenes get a visceral emotional reaction out of me, like to the point of rage. It's really hard to see. And like, I think very violent things about that priest, like very, very, very violent things about that priest. I'm also like, I'm hoping that Tiana is safe. Number one, I'm hope we can trust the man that picks her up in the
His name is runs his horse.
I thought that was her dad's name. That's her father's name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's his father's name?
Yeah. So I forgot the other guy's name, but he shows up at the right moment. So one thing we learned from this is, man, Tiana definitely just has heart. To go out there understanding like the elements and the different things that could be after her in the middle of nowhere, no resources, no transportation, no horses, like none of these things. And she's willing to brave that. Like, it, for her, I think staying in that school is worse than death. Is worse than whatever elements that she could have braved. So it is important for us to see somebody take that journey, understanding how dangerous it is, because it lets us know how dangerous she knows what she's leaving behind is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm hoping she reunites with her family, and I hope they come back and get all the vengeance on that school, free those girls, and string that priest up by his fucking chin hair, whatever, like whatever needs to be at. Fuck that guy forever, man.
That speaking of the girls, that's my fear, because when you see the Covenant burying the body, I'm assuming it's Tiana's friend. You see a lot of other crosses in that graveyard. So I don't know of those graves. Those are past graves from past students, or they just went ham and just killed all the Native American girls in that school currently. Like, but you said Tristan off air, like they wouldn't show that scene unless they were like trying to exhibit the cruelty of that Covenant. And my fear is that all those girls are gone, and
or they could also be showing us how long that school has been open, right? So the fact that they just keep adding, like this isn't something that just popped up 2 years ago. Like this is a legacy, and like those graves mark the legacy of that school and its evilness.
I agree. And I also think, even though they might want to take it out on the rest of the girls, I also think if this school is government like subsidized, like you kill all your students, you kill your money, basically. So that's an incentive to keep them alive, to, keep on collecting that government money. So, it's another way to look at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I want to talk about Hank a little bit too. Because I know Hank found Tiana in the rocky mainlands of Montana. Do you think Hank is the spark that gets her tribe going to come back to kill all those people in the Covenant, or you think Hank's a possible dead end? Like, what do you guys' thoughts on Hank?
I mean, like I said, we know we hope because of what she's been through, and I don't think again, I'm a Game of Thrones fan. I don't think the show would put would put her through all that with what she went through in the school, physical, mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, all these things, just to have her go to in the hands of a protector, and then suffer more. But I don't put anything past men. So it's a possibility. But what I think is going to happen is, before she's able to reunite with her family and the rest of the tribe, I think her and Hank are going to, go through some more tribulations, because remember, the school is still after, and they are pretty determined to bring her back. So maybe Hank doesn't make it in trying to protect her from them. But I think ultimately she makes it back. I hope hopefully she makes it back. Like, I'm really rooting for Tiana. You're an amazing job, by the way.
Tiana, everybody in the hood's rooting for you, man. Get back to that tribe safe. Real talk. I want to talk about Banner and Donald Whitfield. So, Mr. Whitfield, played by the fourth James Bond ever in film history, man. So now he's bought the Stratford Ranch. The Stratford left, so he owns that ranch, and now he has eyes on the Yellowstone. And a big reason why he has eyes on the Yellowstone is that there's a bunch of mining opportunities above the ranch, mining for gold, silver, all types of metal properties. What was so funny to me, and sometimes when I watch this show, I have to forget modern times and think about the 20th century. So I find it so funny to me, this scene where Whitfield is showing Banner this crib that he has, gas cookers, light switches, just all types of stuff that us as regular people today take for granted. And and Banner is just like he's just like amazed by this. Faucets, water faucets, don't have to go out to the outhouse to get water and go in bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. And Whitfield gives him this house for him and his family. And I remember Whitfield saying 2 episodes prior, like, hey, if you're gonna offer me the Yellowstone and offer me the Dutton's weakness, you better come through. I'm gonna murder you, your wife, and everybody you love. So that house for me was a reminder of the promise that Banner made to Whitfield. It's a grand house, it's a grand house. What are your thoughts on Marcy? What are your thoughts on Whitfield, man, and what he's aspiring to do in this story?
I like the character. I kind of like evil villainous characters that are not villainous like this priest. So I loved when he was just showing him the house and you could tell that Banner was like, holy crap, like what is all of this? What is this magic? Like you're cooking something and like water coming out of this thing. So that was just a little bit funny for me. But it shows you like how high the stakes are, right? Like he's not just gonna give him like this big old nice fancy house if he doesn't expect him to like work for it and like kill for it and like be ruthless for it. So it just kind of shows you like how much he really wants to get the land where the Yellowstone is, and how much he's willing to kind of like put up for it and offer to Banner to like do his like dirty work for him.
And for me, it this is where the show is like making sure that we know how bright the battle lines are drawn, right? Like we're seeing on one side Banner. Uh, why did I? How did I just forget Donald Whitfield? We're seeing them setting up their side of this larger battle that's coming. Like what we saw in the field, shots was a precursor to the much larger uh, ranch war, I guess. That's going to be happening on that side. On the other side, we got Jacob and Kara like kind of planning out who could be backing Banner, so they know how to proceed. And then we also have Spencer coming in. We have Jack in his vengeful mode. Real quick, like I think the show is also kind of showing us like a clear contrast between Jack and Spencer, because both of them are like driven by revenge, right? And the urgency of the moment, but Spencer is able to kind of see clearly and still care for the ones around him. Like Alex, he still is able to show that love, and Jack is just not mature enough to do that at this point. But that's different conversation. But like all I'm seeing is just battle lines drawn. Like Marcy, you talked about the stakes. The stakes are that house, right? And the stakes are like the progress. And so much of the Yellowstone universe, what we've seen so far is like this battle between traditionalism and progress. And you can view both of those concepts in different ways. You can view traditionalism as antiquated, outdated, like there's just no use for this anymore. You could view it as like this safe haven that people cling to, especially in times of chaos. As the current John Dutton views progress, he views that as like a incursion on like a way of life where you have a different perspective, a different point of view, whereas progress is the future. Like this is just the way things are going, whether you like it or not. So it's interesting to see that same thing play out in a prequel, like basically 80 90 some years away, 100 years away. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, so he's showing like all these different things, refrigerator, like the electricity, and all these things. And I think for Banner, it's like these things are so close enough for him to touch, but like the stakes are, what do you have to do to get it? And you have to like eliminate the Duttons in order to get these things, right? And good luck to you, Banner. I just don't think you're gonna get. I don't think you're gonna get it.
If I'm Banner, that would have made me nervous. Like, oh, this motherfucker's really serious about getting this ranch, and this motherfucker's really to his word. If I don't come through, like my family's bloodline is at stake right now.
I think we kind of see that on his face too when he gives him the keys. He's a little bit incredulous, like, did you really just give me this house? But I also saw it dawn on him a little bit that like, oh shit, like, okay, like now I really have to deliver.
Exactly. Also the exchange between Whitfield and Kara. So Kara's, I think she's coming back from the post office after getting the message that Spencer got her message that he's coming. And he's pretty much telling her like, look, I love you, bravery, your courage, but you're a woman. Are you gonna be able to handle this ranch by yourself? Which the level of just smart assiness and this like contempt for women leading coming from the tone of his voice, just it sickened me. Because
it's
my
the
man,
basis behind their whole strategy. It's
yeah,
like they have a woman leading them. Oh shit! It's like fucking North Turner or something. His head
bro,
coach. Like
it's wild. It's so wild. And like, if this motherfucker knew Kara's resume, like he don't know. And I think too, part of being like an adversary, a smart adversary, is knowing your enemy's weakness and strengths. And clearly, this motherfucker didn't do his homework. He didn't do his homework. He probably got all secondhand information from Banner. You know what I'm saying? And Banner doesn't come across as a bright guy that's cunning. But yeah, so like after Kara they have this weird exchange of one-upping each other, and Kara, carries on about her day. And he's like, well, she's not gonna last. The winner will be here. We'll choke her out. And it's so funny to me that a guy who's this rich, this affluence in this time doesn't do his homework. Marcy, what were your thoughts on Kara and Donald Whitfield's exchange?
She owned him. He's all like, well, I just want to like talk to your husband. She's like, well, he's not available. And he said, well, don't you keep his calendar? Don't all ranch wives keep the books in the calendar? And she said, not this wife. I said, yes, thank you, Kara, because just because she's the wife doesn't mean she's got to do that. Like when I was married, I was not that type of wife. So maybe that's a whole problem. But yeah, I loved how she kind of like held her own and was like, bitch, what? And then he said, like, why don't I just stop by your house? And like, no, you're not just gonna come to my house and see if my husband's home. He's like one of those annoying like door-to-door salesmen. So yeah, I like how she kind of handled herself there.
I mean, it's I took the inviting himself over was as a sign of like clear disrespect of her. Like I'll just disrespect of the family as a whole, like understanding how weak they are right now because Jacob's down. Like I'll just show up. Like, who the fuck are you? It's like, no, actually you won't. Yeah, I love the back and forth there. And I love how in both interactions that she has with both Banner and with Whitfield. First with Banner a couple episodes ago after the livestock meeting, and she's like, hey, don't worry, hey, my nephew's coming, like the other one, so she's not afraid at all. Like she's not just muscle, she's not just brain, she's not just like the consigliere. Like Kara Dutton is as versatile as it gets. So it's funny to me because even Jacob keeps talking about how we need a leader. I'm like, hey man, y'all got a leader. She may not have the same cachet in that time period because of her gender, at least to the people that are in front of her. But she every move she's made, everything she suggested has been excellent. You know what I'm saying? And it's worked. And she's also smart enough to know that because of the time period, she can't be the face of the family. And she's making all the preparations for Spencer to come in and assume that role. But she's more than capable.
But even with Jacob saying that, as much as we love Jacob, I mean, he's a victim of the times. Yeah. He's not a guy. I mean, they're not as progressive. He's more progressive than his counterparts. But even with that being said, he just doesn't totally see the light when it comes to his wife, Kara. Speaking of Jacob, he's still recovering. The doctors clearly say that if he walks, he needs assistance. One of the best scenes of this episode that I love so much is that Jacob's trying to get upstairs and he's struggling. Like he even took a couple steps back and recovering again. And Kara walks in from behind him and sees him struggling. And I love this scene so much because Kara knows for them to fully win this war, that Jacob needs to be as strong, better than he was before. And her trying to assist Jacob every step of the way is not going to help it's not going to help everybody or anybody in this matter. And so seeing that and seeing that Jacob needs strength, I thought that was very symbiotic of like what the Duns are going to have to be in order to win this war. And I thought it was a beautiful scene, man, to be honest. And incredible acting by Harrison Ford. Like you visibly see him hurt and struggling, grimacing, and like the different facial structures of like him going step by step, I thought was so dope. What was your thoughts on that, T?
I mean, same. Like it demonstrated. I mean, it just demonstrated the weakness of the family and how like literally you need the women to hold this up, right? Like what do we see in this episode? We saw Cara Dutton step in and just continue to be the matriarch of the family. We see Alex. We see Alex asserting the fact that hey, she's not just some weak, carry on as a travel partner. Like, hey, no, I can hold my own, right? We see Elizabeth standing up for like love, like, hey, either love me or leave, let me go, right? These are not weak women in this story, who are just kind of holding on to like their partners. Matter of fact, the only weak woman that we see in this episode kills herself because she does not feel the same agency to like be a powerful woman that the other women feel. So yeah, that's what I took from that scene. Also, again, we see Jacob. When he's conferring with somebody about like what are the biggest threats to the family, he's not doing it with any other cowboys. He's not doing it with Jack. He's not doing it with any other ranchers. He's doing it with Cara, right? Because he knows that she can help him think through the necessary steps, like who's backing Banner, right? Let's think through this. Like they both have enough working knowledge of the landscape that they can figure this out and prepare for it, right? Or at least prepare Spencer for it when he gets in to be the new head coach of the family.
Head coach. Marcy, what about you?
I think it just really also showed like how much of like the work the women did back then, right? Not only was she like his right hand and like helps keep the ranch going, but she's also tending to his wounds and cleaning his wounds and helping him just basically stay alive, right? She was going to help him like walk and like get his exercise because the cowboys didn't get to see him like that, right? So it just really shows how much he leans on Cara and how much she like stepped up, and how I'm sure that was like indicative of almost all of the wives back then, right? Like you really had to pitch in and like be the right hand. So it just shows like how strong Cara is, and like I love her. And I was very I didn't think I would like her too much when this whole show started. I was like, oh, I'm just kind of, I don't know if I like Helen Mirren in this, but no, I'm glad to have been proven wrong. Like I really have grown to really love her character. She's really, really strong.
Yeah, I think a great example of like the strength that women had to have back in those days, especially on the ranch, was it might have been episode 3 when Elizabeth is talking about the wedding and like wanting to get married before a certain season, and Cara just pretty much explained to her like, look, you are a ranch woman, you are a cowboy's wife, doing the winter, doing the summertime, the herd's happening, they're being moved. During the wintertime, we move the herd back down south. There are months in between where you don't see your husband, and you got to hold it down. And I think that that really explained to the audience too that wasn't like a Disney movie where the prince and the princess goes live happy ever after in this castle. You got to man down the castle, all parties involved. So I thought that was a good intro to what a cowboy's wife is expected of as far as their duties on the ranch. I want to talk about Jack real quick too. So Jack just lost his father, lost his mother, lost his brother, and he's just been on revenge, and he's neglecting his husband duties as far as being there for his wife and being present in the moment. And Elizabeth explains to him like, look, man, I lost too, but unlike you, I'm invested in this marriage. And if you're not gonna be invested in this marriage, then take me back to town. And that was a little bit spinning the bar right there. I thought that was a great explanation to him to say, hey, wake the fuck up. Yes, we've lost, but you're gonna lose me too if we don't get it together as a family. the wedding, the exchange of the vows, I did not see. I didn't expect. I thought it was kind of cool. What my question is to you guys: what role does Elizabeth play this season? Do you think there'll be a time or a place where she has to arise to help probably save this family or contribute in a major way? If so, what are your thoughts on that? I'll start with Tristan.
Yeah, I definitely think the first time we see Elizabeth in like some type of danger, like anybody would in that point who had never experienced it and didn't grow up around that, like she kind of cowers, like, and she should. So like everybody else, like this is a disadvantageous situation. I think the next time, I think she'll be more ready for when the inevitable threats to that family come. So I think she has I think the bigger role she has to play though is being the kind of moral compass for Jack. Jack, I think the show is kind of letting us know it's starting to characterize him as a bit of a hothead, right? But certain people can bring him back. Kara's good at bringing him back. Elizabeth's good at bringing him back. Probably in ways that I don't know if his mother, like you said, ever did. Like we haven't seen enough from them. Like I don't know how much interaction Emma and Jack have in the show at all. You know what I'm saying? So he clearly respects people who have the assertiveness to hold him accountable and bring him back to center. And I think that's where Elizabeth's biggest role in this family is going to be, is like just keeping him in check for as long as possible.
Marcy?
Yeah, I agree. I think she's a good like anchor for him to really like show him what is important. And because we also don't really know John the Third's lineage yet, like we don't know if her importance is going to be the one that keeps this family going, this lineage going, because like it was narrated in this episode, like the Duttons are dying off. There were only 4 of them left. So we don't know if like her importance is going to be the one that brings about the next generation. But I really feel like the women are really the badasses in this show. So I definitely do think that she is also going to step up alongside with Kara and then hopefully with Alex, if they ever make it to Montana, to really help keep this going. But, I thought the vow exchange was like kind of sweet. I was like, okay, like that's kind of sweet, kind of high school, but whatever. It was still cute. And, like Jack was able to bring it with his husband Judy. So now we see that they're expecting, and hopefully things will go well, because this is still the 1920s and a lot of things can go wrong. And so we don't know if the baby's going to survive. I hope it does, but you never know. And Taylor really likes to throw trauma in his shows, especially at women. So we'll see what happens.
Watch it be like some type of long lost cousin from like Idaho. That's what John lineage comes from that fucking line. I wouldn't be surprised. Taylor he keeps throwing all these fucking curveballs. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so finally let's talk about Spencer and his trek back home. Hearing his trek really brought stress to my heart. This motherfucker has to leave Mombasa, go to the Egyptian Channel, back to London, over the Atlantic, back to America. Bro, you're going backwards only to go forwards? Like what the fuck? Like that was when I heard the track back home, it demoralized me. I'm like, bro, he ain't making it back to season 2. He not gonna make it. He's not gonna make it back to season 2. But with Spencer, man, so they finally meet this captain on this little tugboat, and this scene it has to mean something because they kept bringing it up in the scene. But there was a ghost ship, so they're trying to get to the Egyptian Channel, and they see this ghost ship, and they're just trying. And he keeps talking about this ghost ship, how it's following the captain, the guy who was the sickly captain, and by the third mention of it, I was like, this gonna mean something. It's gonna play a role. And I thought initially it wasn't a ghost ship. I thought it was probably a ghost ship previously, but it was probably manned by pirates. But he just didn't know. and I thought the pirates were going to attack Spencer and the rest of the crew in the tugboat. Just to make it quite simple, man, Marcy, do you think Spencer and his wife survives after the tugboat wreck?
I hope so, but again, it's a Taylor Sheridan show, so we don't know. Like, he's already killed off like one character, well, multiple characters, but one doesn't in the show so far. I hope they do, but he just kind of like sprinkled in like omens and omens and omens. First thing is, this guy is coughing up blood. Like, I wouldn't want to get anywhere near him. Like, he's probably got tuberculosis. He's probably going to give it to you, and like maybe you could die, like, and you don't even make it back to Montana because you got the TB. So as soon as they got on the boat, I was wary. I was like, I just thought of all the germs, and it just kind of like made me sick to watch all of those scenes. But then they're like, okay, on the boat, and they're learning how to like navigate. And then I was like, something bad is going to happen with this captain. And sure enough, we are left without a captain, and now we are capsized, and like we don't know where Spencer and Alex are. So I'm super ready for the next episode to see what happens. But yeah, it's a long trek, it's a long trip, and it kind of made me think of Home Alone, where like the mom's trying to get back to Chicago, and she's like, no, I've got to get on like the first flight out there. And because it takes her so long, she ends up getting there at the same time as the family did, who left later. So I'm just like, Spencer, you should have just taken like that first ship, waited until November, just left on the nice ship in first class, and you could have probably gotten to Montana earlier, but now you're like stuck in the ocean.
The question I'm asking myself is, if only one of them survives. Listen, I love Alex. I love Alex to death, man. I do not want her to go. I am worried about Alex. I do think both of them made it in some type of way. Spencer just protector guy. You know, I think he's gonna do whatever it takes. Power. He's just a smart guy. Like, I think he's able to see danger ahead and, you know, plan for those things. Hitting that ghost ship obviously was unexpected, but I just trust that Spencer has a plan. So I think they both made it. If only one of them made it, then it's going to be Spencer, and I'm going to be fucking heartbroken. Heartbroken for real. So I love Alex as a character so much. She may be my favorite or second favorite character right now. I know we talked about different theories, like maybe they were able to get on the ghost ship. I think if I had to guess, I think episode 6 starts off with them like underneath that tugboat some type of way and trying to make their way back up to the top of it. If they got on that ghost ship, then Spencer is even more of a G than I think. But like, I didn't see any way up there. So yeah, I think they're gonna start off I think they're underwater right now when the episode ends, and they're gonna make their way on top of that boat and just kind of have to fight their way to some type of safety. My best guess.
I'm not a ship person at all. I don't know shit about ships or boats. I'm going to need a detailed explanation. If they can make it on that ghost ship, I'm going to need a detailed explanation of how they got on that 80-foot ghost ship. Because I ain't see any visible exits or entrances at the bottom of that ship. So that's going to be interesting, man. What are your thoughts on the for next week's episode?
I mean, I just want to see like what happened on the tugboat. I want to see like, they're capsized. Are they underwater trying to like get to the top and get some air? I just want to see what happens like that. Like, I don't care about the rest of the storyline so far. I just want to see how they finagle themselves out of that situation. And it would be very impressive if they did make it on the ghost ship. But yes, this episode had me Googling all about like tugboats and like communication on ships. And if they did get on the ghost ship, like, could they still use the radio if like the boilers and the engine don't work? So I just want to see like what happens there.
Yeah, the only thing I give a fuck about is if Spencer and Alex made it. You know, we know Spencer's going to make it to Montana. You know, that's already been told to us. I really want Alex there. It's like, but it's just so, as much as more shit keeps happening, I'm like, it's just not looking great. young Alex to make it to Montana. But I'm really hoping. If not, then again, that's just going to push Spencer even more into like the trauma that he's trying to get out on. And Alex has done such a great job of, getting him out of breaking down that wall that he just has built up, like just through her sheer charm, you know what I'm saying? And just wit and brilliance. So I really, really, really hope that Alex makes it. It is kind of foreshadowed that maybe she doesn't. Like I have no information whether she does or not. I haven't seen any spoilers, but if you just, spoil, he wanted to leave her behind because of how dangerous this trip was going to be. And he, like I said, he was going to send for her later. Alex was like, hey, I'm doing this with you, or we don't do this at all. And hopefully that's not her undoing, because I love her as a character and I love for what she can be for Spencer going forward. Like she humanizes him in such a way that makes him a better man and just for us a better character. So prayers up for my girl Alex. Hope she can swim.
Tiana. I want to see what happens to Tiana. Sorry, I forgot about her, but yes.
Yeah, I want to see the aftermath of Tiana meeting Hank and what comes after that. And we can't lose any more main characters, man. We don't have enough actors left to act. Like, we can't keep killing people at this point. You know what I'm saying? Alex is going to make it. I'm positive she's going to make it. She'll have a baby. We're going to be happy about it. Again, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Tristan, Marcy, the Watchers universe. Thank y'all so much, man. For more episodes, stay tuned to our schedule. Again, we're over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Watchers Basements. Let's grow the show. Road to 500 is on the way right now. Also, you have any opinions, please like, share, comment, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. Again, for myself, Tristan and Marcy, this is episode 5 of 1923. We are gone.